it's on before it actually shows. Mm-hmm.
It's a circling.
But it's on.
It's on.
Mm-hmm. It's normal.
Alright.
Yeah.
Alright. Hey everyone. Hey everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever time you're watching this. This is my mommy, and I'm back again. Last time I was here, we were talking about the Ancestry DNA kit that we gave to my dad, and I have a package that came in from the mail. My mom, she picked it out from the FedEx delivery guy, and then she was just saying that, oh, it's here. I have it right here, and a little thank you card that they gave to me. And I also have the Sierra Leone shirt from the company too. It says on the other side, it's African Ancestry. And on their website, they have other shirts you can choose from too. So, but anyways, that package, I want to get to it a little bit later. But the main thing I'm here to talk about are the books and the media that left an impression on me back when I was growing up, and even now, currently, as I still grow and go about life, I try to come up with some more ideas of how I can be a part of the conversation and be about progress. And by doing that is reading books. We learn a lot from the people that we're around and our experiences and all the books that we read. So I wanted to share that. The books range from different age groups. So these are books that I've read when I was a kid, all the way up until now as an adult. And even the kids' books I go back and venture and look at. Mm-hmm. So the first book I want to talk about is the Addy book from American Girl. Mommy, do you remember me reading this?
Yes, I do. I remember. Mm-hmm.
So this book is special to me because I think it was in the 4th grade when I started reading this. Mm-hmm. I had a tutorer that my parents hired. Her name is Miss Mention. I'll never forget her. Mm-hmm. She was an older black woman. I loved her. She was a teacher, and she was a great teacher. She introduced me to the Addy series. And Addy, hey Autumn, hey Daddy. Addy is, she grew up during slavery, and this follows a young girl who, I want to say Addy was around maybe 12, about 10 to 12 years old. She and her family are followed throughout this story around their life of trying to break free and find their freedom, because it was not, it was something that they chose to, obviously, and even now I try to be aware of the words that I use. Enslaved. When I'm referring to people who were slaves, I don't like to say, oh, the slaves, because that's not their identity. Mm-hmm. They were enslaved. They weren't slaves. Mm-hmm. That's not who they were born to be. Mm-hmm. So Amen. These people were born with gifts and talents and all those things that was stolen from them once our ancestors were taken from Africa. So Addy, when they tell this story, it's so precious to me because Addy, she had a bright spirit. She always wanted to learn something new. Mm-hmm. She always questioned why she couldn't do something too. She wasn't always like, oh, well, we do this because this is how it is and this is how it's always going to be. Mm-hmm. She questioned why. So on this journey in this book, you find Addy and her mother having to break away from the family, their main family, because her father and her brother are being sold off to another plantation. So in the midst of that, they're like, what are we going to do? We're not going to let them break our family apart, because the family is a unit. When you break up the family, then there's a bunch of missing pieces. Mm-hmm. You need your family. Absolutely. And so they pull together, Addy and her mother. They end up having to leave the little baby because, of course, running away with the little one crying, that's a cause for trouble. And throughout the story, they come over some hardships of just having to, be in disguise. At one point, I remember reading Addy had to dress up like a boy for a while because there was a situation where, because they're women, if they were caught in a certain situation, they were gonna be, just picked up and sold off to somewhere else. They didn't care if you, didn't. You came from another plantation. They didn't have any quote unquote papers to say they belonged to somebody. They were gonna sell you off. But Addy, this cover in particular, this is a newer edition of it. I grew up with the edition looking more like this. This is like a spin-off part of the story right after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. This was a break-off story about it. And I grew up with the cover looking more like this, and I wish I looked all online to see if I could find the books, to see if I could find the original ones because I want the book set, but I couldn't find them, and the ones that I could, they run from around $100. So
wow.
they don't have the original copies as they did before in the past. They really don't have them. But yeah, these were special to me because
I remember when you were little and you would tell me all about the Addy stories and what was going on with her. And I remember because you were the same age around Addy, the character in the story, and it really made an impression on you about how our people grew up. And as a little girl, she didn't understand, and she was learning, and you would be so emotionally attached to the story. You would some of the things. It was real life events, but it would sadden you, and it helped shape your personality of who you are today as a young woman, African American woman. Yes. So I'm grateful for the story of Addy to kind of shed light on how life was as a child who grew up in slavery.
Yes, and that this story, it shaped me as far as me actually having that experience of my first time thinking about slavery. This story showed me how real it was. Even though Addy is a fictional character, her story lives on in the lives, in the events of our ancestors. There was a real girl somewhere down my line that experienced similar things such as Addy, and it was a scene in the book. I don't want to spoil the book. It's a children's book, but they do have some real stuff in here that makes you want to cry. It was a situation where the overseer was instructing Addy and her mother to get away because they were about to sell Addy's brother and father, and Addy she wasn't having it. She was like, "No, you're not going to do this." So he brought out his whip, and you know the rest that happened. He beat Addy and her mother, and he also made Addy eat and gobble up a bunch of worms. I couldn't believe it when I first read that, because we know these things, we know these stories, but just getting personal and real with the the characters of these people who actually lived these lives, it really does shape how you can't forget about these stories, even though it happened a long time ago. These things still happen, and the memory and the trauma of it still lives on. But Addy, this is Addy. The book series, I think they come in about 6 books. They're for children, so you could read them with your kids. If you have kids, you can read them with your nieces and nephews, or you can read them yourself. But it's an excellent book. I'm definitely going to revisit this again. So the next book is a book. It's called Black Like Me. All right. It's called Black Like Me by John Howard Griffin. And this book was recommended to me by my brother Emmanuel. I believe he was reading this book while he was taking his college classes. and he was telling me about it. He said, "Hey, like Chastity, there's this white guy. He while he was living in the 50s, he portrayed himself to be black, and he went about and told his experience." And I'm like, "So you mean to tell me this white man went in blackface?" And he was like, no, like, that's not the whole story. So I had to read it to kind of dig deep in it. What he did was he took a combination of pills that made him darker. It darkened his skin, and then he did some light therapy. It changed the texture and the color of his skin.
Was it temporary?
I believe it was temporary.
Oh, okay.
But it was some medication that doctors was prescribing for him. He was willing to go through with this experiment, and this happened in the 50s. And he shaved his hair. He did his best. To me, when you look at the actual footage of it, you're like, oh yeah, you can tell it's a white guy. But
in the 50s,
from the perspective of someone who's non-black, they're like, oh, you know, yeah, you probably could pass. So he went about his life. This story pretty much is written in journal entries. So this is his personal journal.
Wow.
And it's quite fascinating because it's telling the story of how life would be if you took a walk in your neighbor's shoes, what you would discover. And he found that out really quickly, that even people like his friends were racist, and they treated him differently. He grew up, of course, being, privileged and not having, to deal with certain situations. This was in the area during Jim Crow and the Civil Rights Movement. Just imagining he's doing things like getting his shoes shined, and he can't do that or go in certain business establishments because he wears black skin now. And it's a powerful story. I recommend that everybody take a read at it. You can get it on an audio book. I think it would actually be better if you actually listen to it and hear the testimonies or read it together. But yeah, definitely a great read. And my next book is actually it's like a graphic novel. It's called March. I don't know if you can see it. Hope you guys can see it with the lighting. But this is based off of John Lewis's life during the Civil Rights Movement. I found this at Borders in not Borders, Barnes and Noble.
Okay,
it wasn't that long ago, but I was looking in the section. I was like, do they have anything that might intrigue me? This was when I was really heavily into comics, and I kind of needed something to stimulate my brain. So they come in 3 sets, and it's beautifully written.
You almost popped that
book
right in my
head. I'm sorry. But this is the first book. It's a book of 3, and I just wanted to show you like what was going on. Like, it's in black and white, but it's beautiful. And it goes in depth of, it's an autobiography, and it goes in depth of his story, him growing up and him as a little boy, describing how he wanted to be a preacher and a minister, and then a politician. So it's a really good read if you want to know more about John Lewis and learn about his life. He has a credible story. I recommend this to all ages. Like, I want to read this again because it was just that good.
Yes.
All right. And then my next one, this is like my current book that I'm reading. It's called Locking Up Your Own Crime and Punishment in Black America by James Foreman Jr. And this book was written by a law professor. He graduated from Yale, and he currently teaches pretty much law in that field, respectively. And he was telling his story, basically how he wanted to become a public defender. He wanted to defend people like him. As a black man, he's like, I want to make sure that, you know, my people, I can defend my people during things like crime and as far as the war on drugs, all that. But he's tapping into the things that we're currently facing. How people, a lot of people, I noticed they really don't understand that, you know, the culture of what's going on right now, as far as people are looting, people are upset, they're hurting, and there's this story that he's telling of this systemic racism and the way classism works, and how people are, because of the color of your skin, black people are held at this bottom tier because the system is not set up for them to succeed. And so he was telling his story in the beginning of the book, in the introduction. It's really important that you read this introduction. I know some people, like, they tend to skip through it, and I'm like, I just want to get to the point.
A lot of info in the introduction.
You do.
I haven't read this book, but I know what you mean.
Yes, that in this specific case, that introduction is key to the whole book. So he was talking about, to summarize it, he was talking to a judge, and in this case, his client was a young black boy, and he was caught with a firearm and a small amount of weed. So it was small enough to even probably sell, very small amount. And so he was, you know, when they were in court, the judge was also black. He threw the book at him. He said, you know, like, our, you know, ancestors didn't die. He gave him that speech. Our ancestors didn't die. They didn't suffer. Martin Luther King didn't die for you to act like a thug, and so on. And then, what hurt the author, James, the lawyer, he was saying, okay, we're doing all of this. He's saying all these things, giving him this important speech, but then he still chose to throw the book at the boy, this young boy. And what was going to happen? It wasn't anything like you know, something like community service. He was sending this boy to one of the worst juveniles facilities ever. In this particular area in D.C. It took place in D.C. And it made him upset, and it made him angry, because what he talks about in this book is that how a lot of black people in power, they go to school, they get all these accolades, and you know, they pretty much forget about their brothers and sisters
who need help.
And we get it. We're not trying to tell anybody how to live their lives or what to do. You know, he tells that story of, well, you know, I lived that same lifestyle. My mom and my dad didn't have it, you know, that well growing up either, but they still did what they were supposed to do, and they still made it. But that we know that that's not everybody's story. There's some systemic things in the world that place people in an area where they cannot crawl to the top. And so he's tackling those things, so that black people and all people remember and not forget about, you know, how it all started, the origins of it, and how we can mentor, and how we can give back, and how we could unite and make our community stronger. And
very interesting book.
It's a really important book. I always say that even Harriet, when she was in the situation of being enslaved, she didn't go off and run away. You know, she could have. She made that decision. She could have done that and just been like, I'm good. She went back and got her brothers and sisters out of the pit. She went back several times, and so it's not just about like, oh, I did it, you can do it. It's about educating our brothers and sisters, mentoring them, and showing them, yes, there is a better way of how to break free from these systemic things.
Yes.
So I'm still reading this book.
What's the name of it again?
This one is called Locked Up, Locking Up Your Own Crime and Punishment in Black America. Okay. It's by a lawyer, so he knows, he goes into the law and everything. It's very thorough.
Okay.
So my next one, the fan is called. My next one, I'm excited about this next one. This one is unique because it's not set in America, of course. It's Trevor Noah's Born a Crime. Okay. And Trevor Noah, he's from South Africa. Okay. So this book right here, if anybody watches his show on YouTube, and
I've never heard of him.
Like, okay, so we're gonna go on YouTube. We're gonna check him out. Basically, political figure and comedian. Okay. But he's a brilliant man. Okay. I love hearing him speak and what he has to say. So when he had a biography, I was like, yes, I gotta go and get it. I'm so interested to see what he has to say. So Trevor Noah is basically talking about his life growing up in South Africa during apartheid, and that was during that was a hard time, of course, in Africa. A lot of people forget that there was a segregation period where Black people were not allowed to do X, Y, and Z, and you find that across the board. So it just happened in the United States. It happened, in the motherland. But Trevor Noah, he does such a good job of illustrating the details of what happens in his life, and he's a particular character. He was a busy boy. He really was, and you can see that in his personality now. But he really does tell the story about his mother too. Okay. About how his mother had to pretty much break free and do certain things in order to remind him of his identity and that he's still, a special, important boy growing up during apartheid when people were not, people who look like you and me were not allowed to do certain things. Okay. So this one right here, definitely, if you are not a reader, check it out on an audio format. Okay. It's really good. It's hilarious too. It's very funny. But the next book I have on here, I don't have the physical copy because I'm reading it on my phone. Oh. It's ebook, so I'm gonna show you. This one's very interesting. I think a lot of people. So it's called right here Too Heavy a Yoke. No. You see it, mommy?
Too heavy a yoke.
Yep. Okay. Too heavy a yoke. This is talking about the burden of. First of all, let me ask you, mommy, what word, when someone asks you how to describe a Black woman, what is the first word that comes to your mind? The first word. Just like describe a Black woman. What's the first word? Tell me the first word. The one that's used all the time.
I'm not answering.
You not answering it?
No.
Okay, y'all can fill it up in the comments. Tell me the first word, what you think. But my thought
from society.
From society, and not your personal opinion, but from society. Yeah. Basically.
It's such a controversial issue because a lot of times Black women are portrayed in a negative light as being angry, and that is just not the case. Angry, hostile.
What's another adjective that usually is masculine, but it's it's strong. And
what happened in the book?
The book is basically tackling. I want to make sure everybody can see it. This is what the book cover looks like, but it's tackling the burden placed on Black women about being strong, and the word "strong" itself, it was pretty much created. That whole narrative of the strong Black woman that was created in order to kind of nit the other stereotypes in the butt, like the mammy, the help stereotype,
right, exactly,
the
yes.
The Jezebel, the
Mm-hmm.
overly sexualized stereotype. What's another one? The angry black woman stereotype.
Yeah,
we got several of them, and so the one that people are dealing with now, and a lot of people take to a positive light, is the strong one, but there are negative connotations that one also holds, because what the book talks about is how, well, it's emphasized that, oh, she's strong, she's resilient, she can do anything, which those things are good, but in the sense where she can't be vulnerable, she can't have a moment to just have to herself and be, if she's really in pain.
Right.
Like, I remember reading online, it was like a thread. Someone said, oh, what's your favorite thing about black women? And it was like, oh, they can do anything. They can take bullets. I was like, I don't want to take bullets. I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to do that. Like, so it's like we're still human.
Right, exactly.
At the end of the day. And the book, it covers things in the church. It covers things, in walking society, about how the black woman is looked at, and how it humanizes us, and it breaks down that barrier of, okay, we can do all these things. We are a powerful group of people, but we are also in that position where we want to be. We want to be nurtured too.
Yes.
We want to be loved. We want to be cared for.
We are strong.
Even though we are, strong, and we have those things. Black women are educated. They're one of the most educated groups. That's a thing to be proud of.
Yes.
But it's a balance. I think it's all about balance.
Yes.
And I think in society today, that trope, it's lost that part of balance. What happened to the video?
Let's see. It says, sorry, we're trying to try again.
All
Okay.
right. Is it good?
It's
all right.
good.
It's good. All right. So, but yeah, I think the book is important. If you love a black woman, if you care about black women, if you are a black woman, you should read the book. Yeah.
I'm going to have to read it.
It's important. So my next book, I'm gonna get a little bit more softer. It's a children's book again. It's called Hair Love.
Yes.
It's called Hair Love, and I hope you guys recognize this one. It's by Matthew A. Cherry, and what he did was he created the book first, and he also, what gave him a lot more recognition was he made a short film on YouTube, and if you guys can go in there, you just type in Hair Love, Matthew A. Cherry. It shows the animated version of the book. And I would encourage you guys to still get the book. But this book, it talks about a little girl. The little girl name is Zuri. And this is her daddy. And Zuri, she's a little black girl with natural 4C hair. So I identified with Zuri. Growing up and trying to figure out, my hair and its place and my identity and its place in the world. And then also my mom trying to learn how to style my hair, because for me personally in particular, while I had 4C hair, a lot of people have 4C hair. My hair was thick. It was like thick.
Not was.
It is.
It
still is. My hair would break, like, if you had the strongest comb, like, forget it. It will not stand a chance. Like, I will break your comb. I will break it. And so, like, once I grew up having perms in my hair, but then around
I didn't know any better. I did that. I'm sorry.
We had, perms, and this was, of course, before the natural hair gurus and community to help educate us on how to properly care for my hair. But you can see, like, even now, like, my hair is in the repoofs because my hair is too thick to slick down and gel up in just one. It's too thick. Clearly, you can do it, but you would have to straighten it out first. And I'm not going to do that.
And although, let me just clarify something. Nothing is wrong with perms.
Yeah,
but I regret perming your hair now that I know better about natural hair. I didn't, back then, you know, this was the early 90s. I didn't know about natural hair care and all of that. So when you guys, I think you had your first perm at about maybe 4.
Yeah.
You know, that was so young. So that's what I regret. That's why I say I didn't know any better. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, it's a thing in culture, of course, growing up being black. I'm sure a lot of young girls, in some cases, there were moms and dads that didn't put the perm in the hair, and kudos to you guys, it's awesome. But in a lot of cases, you know, little black girls and boys, for that matter, remember their first perm, or they remember their first time getting their hair braided. So the story, Zuri, she's going on this journey of self-discovery that I went on when I was little, trying to figure out what to do with her hair. Like, she's like, okay, my hair's like this, I love my poof, but I don't know how to style it. And so she's just, you know, look at her, she's so sweet.
Yeah, that story reminds me of you a lot when you were a little girl.
And like, she's, you know, she just has, you know, the world, you know, in her oyster, and she's excited, but she is concerned because she goes online, she goes to look at the videos, and she's like, okay, I don't know how to really get this style right. And so her dad, it's her and her dad in the story, and mom's away. Mom is involved in the story, but she's away, so she's the one that usually styles and takes care of Zuri's hair. But while mom's away, it's up to dad to see how he can handle this situation. And so the dad, I want to give it up to the dad, the black dads out there too, who are, you know, doing it and, you know, styling their daughters and their sons' hair and taking care of it, and then pouring that into their children, that they're beautiful,
right?
And that image of them is it's a powerful image.
Yeah.
And so the dad, he went and he did his research. He looked online. He said, okay, like there's something on this earth that, you know, I can use to style my daughter's hair and make her feel beautiful. He has locks too, but there's a thing that people go through where they're styling their locks, and locks, I love locks, they're beautiful. I'm gonna lock my hair one day, but then going through that transition of, okay, how do I deal with my loose hair now? That's another journey. And so the dad and the daughter, they just go on this journey of hair and self-discovery and love, and I adore this book.
Yes.
And I think everybody should read this book. If you have kids, read this book, share this with them, and, you know, yeah, have some laughs. I love this book. This book, I'm going to share it with my future kids and my nieces and nephews. Love it.
Yes.
Let me see what else I got next. This book right here. Okay. This one right here. Has anybody seen this book in bookstores?
Wasn't this a movie?
This is it was a movie.
They made a movie out of this one. Okay.
Yeah, so it's The Hate You Give, and it's by Angie Thomas. So I bought this book before it was a movie, didn't realize it would become a movie. Angie Thomas, I follow her on social media. She is really, she has a heart for the black community and the empowerment of black people and the liberation of black people. So she's really, she wrote this story to dedicate and give back to children and people who are involved in Black Lives Matter and who are, you know, dealing with the, you know, the systemic situations. She gave back to her community with this book. And when you go through this book, the character, the girl, her name is Star. She's a teenager, and I would recommend this book for someone who's a little older, because there's some choosy words in there, but it's still good. But it's all good. It hits to a place where you feel like you're talking to Star, and you get in her shoes. You really do feel her life. She grows up in you know, basically her family, they grow up in the hood, and Star, she goes to a school that's predominantly white, and she finds herself having to be one way when
Mm-hmm.
she's with her family and her friends and
Mm-hmm.
everybody that's in her neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
and another way while she's at school.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily by, by choice.
Right.
It's because she fears of how she's going to be perceived in the world as a black girl. And there's some code switching going back and forth. You know how people say, oh, you have a certain voice when you talk on the phone versus how you talk to your friends in black culture.
What they call that?
Code switching. Code switching. You just chilling with your friends. And you talk you talk a certain way, a little different.
But then when you get with somebody else,
you get with in business situations and at school. In situations like that, you have to switch it up or something like that.
Okay.
It's not about being so quote unquote proper. It's just it's just how it is. Even people of all cultures, they change up how they use their language.
I didn't know it was called code switching.
It's called code switching,
okay.
Indeed. But indeed, the book it's very relevant now, of course, since we have Black people are dying. There's different things like that are going on.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter, the police brutality, and just people calling the police on black people for no reason. And
for breathing air,
for walking, for sleeping, and it's sad. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's a whole nother video.
Yeah.
But this situation, Star, she's at a party, she's having fun with her friends, and she meets her friend Khalil. She hasn't seen him in a long time, and Khalil and both Khalil and Star, they want to they want to get away from the loud atmosphere of the party because after a while you're just like, I kind of had it, I'm done. So they both leave. Khalil has a car, so they're riding together, so they're seemingly both safe. Khalil and Star, they park and they just sit and they talk and they catch up as friends do. And there's a situation where a police officer, he comes around, he pulls up, and then Khalil, he didn't have the conversation with his parents about, okay, what do black people do or have to be prepared for when you find yourself pulled over by the police. I'm not saying what happened to him because something happens to him is right or wrong. I'm just gonna tell you what, because it's in the intro. It's not a spoiler. Basically, Khalil is interrogated by the police, even though nothing's wrong. He has his license, he has his registration, but he is shot and killed by the police. He has a hairbrush in his hand, and so if you watch the movie, you can see the scene. But I do recommend you read the book because there's a lot of details that were not in the movie that were vital to this story.
I remember seeing the trailer for the movie, but I've never watched the movie, and I didn't read the book.
You didn't read the book,
but I know I have read books before, and then when you see the actual movie, sometimes the movie just don't paint the full picture. It is always more detailed in the book.
It's always, and they do that a lot of times not to just take out important stuff on purpose. It's just because sometimes films they can't put the story collectively all in maybe like a few hours, where it takes maybe a week or several hours to read something like this.
Right, exactly.
So it's more details. But Star, she is the character where she's finding herself having to be put out in the forefront, or, oh, Star, what are you gonna do about this situation? And she is just trying to figure out what happened to her friend, while the rest of the world is like, okay, we're doing Black Lives Matter, we're gonna fight for Khalil, and she wants to be a part of that, but she's overwhelmed because this is her friend, this is personal to her, she just lost her friend. And then at school, her friend is like being made out of as if he was a thug, and people there, they don't know the situation, they don't know the whole story, and people are they're putting him out there as if he was a criminal, and Star's having it like, you don't know what you're talking about, you didn't know this person. And so Star is like having to figure out how to balance this, and then she has things going on with her boyfriend, things going on with her dad, where her dad doesn't feel exactly comfortable with her boyfriend because they're in an interracial relationship. So it's a lot going on. It's a lot of things that covers this book. And please see the movie, but please read the book. Angie Thomas really does have a heart for Black people, so I do recommend you guys read this. So. And what's another book I have? I'm trying to look through my notes to make sure I covered everything. There's another thing, I think the last one, and I don't have it.
Is that over there?
That's not it.
Oh.
But the last one is super special to me. Before I go into the envelope that FedEx brought to me.
You talking about that envelope that came in?
Yeah, that envelope that came in.
Can you at least hold it up? Sorry.
Yeah, I'll hold it up. I'll hold it up.
Oh, okay.
This one.
Okay.
Before I open this and tell you guys what's inside it.
Okay.
But this one is super special to me. All of them are special to me, but this one right here, I don't have a physical copy of it. I'm gonna tell you why. It's a Toni Morrison project, and I love Toni Morrison as a writer, a poet, a writer of stories. This was her only published short story, and I don't have a copy of it because it was in one of my college books that I rented, and I read this story. It's called Recitatif, and basically it's a story about two girls. It's very important when you read it because Toni Morrison makes the note that these are two girls of different backgrounds, different races. Well, they grew up generally the same as far as where they came from, but their identity as far as who they are racially, they are different. One is Black and one is white, but the thing about the story is Toni Morrison never reveals who is who. So in the story she writes, it kind of encodes, and she tries to get the reader to kind of pull that out and see, okay, who is who and who
right.
who
So
is
one
this
was
person.
Black and
One was black and one was white, and they had different experiences, but Toni Morrison never revealed who was who. And I was
in the entire story.
In the entire story, and I loved it that way because people might associate one character with certain stereotypes. And while we can I remember I did an essay on it. I wish I had it in front of me. I don't know where it is. Maybe I can find it and then review it one day for you guys. But it was I did a review on it, and it was notes I was taking, trying to pinpoint, because our my professor at the time was trying to get us to do a exercise of, can you figure out who is who based off of the characters that Toni Morrison has created. And everybody in the class was trying to figure out up and down. We had bullet points of who was who based off of the actions,
and
based off maybe how they described their hair, or maybe
the situation,
or how their skin might have been. How people, Black people, we can stay in the sun a little bit longer, as well as to someone who is fairer, they might have to put on more protection. So the situation concerning that, but we couldn't tell. We was like, man, she wrote the characters in a way where it was very ambiguous. We didn't know.
She did that on purpose.
She did that on purpose.
Made the book more interesting.
Yeah, it made the book more interesting, and it broke down those barriers of stereotypes in people. And so those the stories, it followed the two girls. They were both orphans, grew up from a same situation, but as they got older, it was different things that affected them in life. And it's like, oh, okay, like this is affecting you, but it's not affecting me.
Yeah.
But it impressed me heavily. I loved Toni Morrison before this, but this particularly, it was her only published short story ever, and I'm trying to find it to see if I can find that random book I had in college.
Say the name of the book again.
It's Recitatif.
Recitatif,
and
okay.
it's I believe it's something that has to do with opera.
Okay.
Going back and forth. I think it's a music term.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to be wrong, so don't quote me on that. But was that class I took was so long ago. But that story left an impression on me heavily about how people are looked at based off of what they look like, but their experiences that they face.
Yes.
And also, there's one more. I forgot. There's an additional one. There's another one. This is a web series that you can go on YouTube and watch right now if you wanted to. I binge watched the entire thing back in 2014. And this was around the time when I was reading Recitatif. It's called The Unwritten Rule. And it tackles situations like microaggressions. You know, when black people, you might not encounter maybe today,
right,
someone who is an openly racist person, but there are hints and clues that people throw here and there. Yeah, here and there. Those are microaggressions that people face, and so this series, please, you guys, go and watch it on YouTube right now. It follows a young woman, a young black woman named Racy, and she just graduated from school. She was starting her own journey on discovering what she wants to do and what she wants to be, and so she's lined up for this new corporate job.
What's the name of it again?
It's called The Unwritten Rules.
The Unwritten
Rules.
Okay.
And so y'all can type it in YouTube. You gotta go check it out. But Racy, she's finding herself starting this new corporate job, and she wants to put her best foot forward. Like anybody else who, you just graduated college and you want that job, you want to climb the ladder, and she finds herself positive about it, but she is always constantly found being the spectacle of her co-workers, her white co-workers, lives. She's like finding herself in situations like, example, one day she came into work and it was the topic of hair. She wears her hair natural, and then one day she came in braids, and it was a situation where her coworker, her manager, she was commenting on her hair. She was like, well, like, it looks, whimsical. And, sometimes you get, sometimes the series is really funny too. The actors did an amazing job, everybody. But the comments here and there, you can feel it, you can sense it. It's those, little comments here and there. And it got it got further into the conversation. Was she's like, oh, how do you wash it though? How do you grow it out that way? Or, and I get it, some people
are just curious.
Some people are just curious. They genuinely want to know. But in this case, I've had situations like this myself, and it was awkward. But in this particular case, Racy is finding herself in several situations throughout her time being at that job for 2 years, being made as a person who does not fit in the sense. And it's not because she doesn't want to work as a team or be a part of. It's because people are fighting against her as being different in a space that's predominantly white. And it got so hard at one point that she was lined up for a promotion, and she was taking this new account, and she was on the phone. She was talking to a customer, and the customer was so enthusiastic and happy about Racy, and she was confident. Okay, she can take care of my account. You're my girl. I want you on this job. The customer comes in. And then she meets Racy in person, and the lady, she's like, oh, I didn't expect you. And then
She
thought she was white.
And when she saw that she was black,
she saw that she was black. She didn't want her,
on her count.
And Racy's boss was telling her. She said, "You know what? I think you should give it to their coworker, another coworker, who happens to be white." But the thing about it was, her coworker, she was trying to train her and show her how to do it, but her white coworker didn't do her job. I'm not saying, of course, you guys know. I know all white people are not doing the same things. This is just speaking for the situation
in the book.
In the web series. This is a web series.
Yeah.
And Racy, it's a journey that she goes through. It's very relatable. It's hilarious. All the actors do a good job, and you might find yourself fitting in that situation. Rather, it's dealing with the situation at hair and what you brought in for lunch that day, and everybody's like, oh, what's that, and yada yada yada. Or it might be deeper than someone you being passed up for a promotion even though you deserved it, and they gave it to somebody else because they were against you for some reason. So that series, binge watch it. It's got three parts to it. So and it's short. I want to say the longer ones are 20 minutes, but they range from like 15 to 20 minutes. So that was the last of all of
your favorite books.
My favorite books and my favorite content.
Books. Yes.
At the time, there are more books that I have, but I don't want to make it too long.
Yes, Jessie. But I'm happy you have a lot of books that you have read concerning your history.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good.
So yeah, it's So I want to get to the books, but let me see. I should read the comments. Hi, you guys. Let's see. Oh, thanks everybody. But I'm gonna go ahead and let you know what's inside there.
What came in the mail?
What came
today?
in the mail? It's from African Ancestry, of course. And so you guys know, if you go back in the videos, if you're not aware, I ordered a test for my dad to test his mother's side, and that test is scheduled to come in for 10 weeks. In 10 weeks, it's not 10 weeks yet, so it's not here. This is not it.
That's why some people were like, "Would you just get to it? What was it?"
Would you get to it? Like, it's not it. It's just not.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. That was not it.
It's not it, and
so we're looking maybe August before we get Dad's.
August or September. They did send me an email confirmation saying that they have the swabs, but there's a process that it has to go through. They have to do the testing and verify everything. So we might not do that until September.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyways, so these right here, I have are results, but they are for my family, and not including my dad, but they are ordering their kits, not the kits, but they're the results that are based off of mine. And what happened was, what I did was, because when one family of the branch takes the test, is relevant for everybody on that same branch. So everybody on my mom's side. Okay. And I contacted them, and I wanted to know, I'm like, can I get the names of family members that wanted this? And so I did. And so this one I'm going to share with you. This is my mom's.
Oh.
This is my mom's, and it says the same thing as mine. This is,
put it a little closer.
It's a little closer.
Yeah.
I don't know if the lighting is too bright or not.
Yeah. You can see,
Can you see
right
it?
there.
It's backwards, but
no, it's not backwards.
Is it backwards? Oh, okay.
Right there.
There it is.
The certificate of ancestry.
Yep. And it's that's pretty much says Mende people living in Sierra Leone, just like mine. Just like mine. But the thing with that is it's the same results from my test that I took last year. So, like I said before, it's when one family member from one family line and branch takes the test, is relevant for everybody. So, I went ahead and ordered the one. I did one for my brother and my sister. I did one for my grandmother. I did one for a cousin. So, let me know if you're in the family on my mother's line, on my mother's side. If you want a copy of the test, I can get one for you, because those results are relevant to you. They're important to you. That's part of your identity now.
That is awesome. Let me take a look at this. So let me see. You got one from my mama too?
Yeah.
Let me see.
That's part of our family, and then
that is so cool.
This one is my mom's.
You know what let me see my mom's, and she don't know.
And she don't know.
So. Mama, you got your certificate from your Ancestry.
I got a tiger in it.
Yes, this is awesome. So one good thing I want to say is we're from the same tribe, the Menende people living in Sierra Leone.
Yeah.
From Coretta Scott King.
Yeah.
And Maya Angelou. Yeah. They're from the same tribe with the Sierra Leone. So I think every family should get together and do this. Every family should know their roots, their history. Chastity, I didn't even think about this until you started to inquire and wanting to know your background, your history, So thank you, Chastity. I'm proud of you. Thank you for giving this to me, and it wasn't necessarily cheap. This is, an investment, but it's worth it. And if you're doing it as a family, everybody that's on the same line, everybody can do it together.
Yeah. Put in money, because I said if you haven't seen the first video of me testing my dad, you can go back and watch that video to get more context to it. Mm-hmm. But the test is an investment. It's $300. But if you get 10 people in your family to invest, a little here or there, it'll pay for yourself.
Yeah, and for the whole family.
The whole family is the same results for the whole family. So you test one person, is for that everyone on that same line.
So we're gonna get this framed for my mama. I'm gonna put mine up too in the house.
Hey, Mikeia. So we were just talking about the you could go back and watch the playback after we're done, but we were just talking about the test results. And I got the copies for the family, and I am going to deliver yours to you. I have a copy for you too, written of the Mende people from Sierra Leone. So I'm going to bring you yours because a couple of weeks ago was your birthday. So I wanted to give that to you. But yeah, that's about it. I wanted to, make mention again, if you have not seen that first video, just go back a little bit on my timeline to get more context in it. Mm-hmm. The test for my mother, my dad's side of the family on his mother's branch, that should be back around September. I'll keep you guys updated, but it's not time yet. So we got a while. Mm-hmm. But I'll be happy to go live.
And how interesting that'll be to know your mom's side as well as your father's side.
Exactly.
That is awesome to know the history, because unfortunately our history was broken and stolen away, taken away from us and stolen. So having at least this will let us know where the roots started.
Exactly.
And I like that.
And it doesn't even stop from there with me. In the future, I would like to do this every year until I've gotten the whole scope of the tree, because we have 4 grandparents. So that means there are 4 branches we got to test. I tested. Wow. I test my grandmother's mother's line. Mm-hmm. And so that means I also have to take another test for her paternal line. And then on my mom's side, my grandfather, I have to take a test for him for the maternal line and the paternal line. And right now I'm doing my dad's maternal line. I also got to do another one through him for his paternal line. So it's grandparents on both sides, all 4 of them. So it's a lot.
Wow.
It's a lot. I got
very detailed.
I got 2 more to do.
Yes.
In the family to get the full scope, but
This is my mom.
But yeah, like I'm excited, you guys. But thanks for watching.
Yes, and for the ones who didn't, I just got to show this.
You want to show it again?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting for sure.
Yes, and can you tell before we go? Can you share again what the Sierra Leone, the people?
I'm waiting for my results.
It's not here yet. It's not here.
My dad's papers.
I want them to. They're coming, I promise. They're coming.
Can you share the Sierra Leone? Can you share that story about what had happened?
Oh, yes.
On the ship.
On the ship. It's also in my other video, but for those who didn't see the first line, they're powerful people, and what stood out to me, what I learned, was they were part of the Amistad ship. When they were being enslaved and captured. The Mende people in particular, they were made of the process of turning around the ship because they refused to be enslaved. They said, we are not doing this. Take us back home now. They wasn't having it. So it's a very powerful thing to know that even, centuries ago that they were fighting in this situation. And I'm proud. I'm proud that they did fight for that.
Yes.
I wish I could call them out by name, but yeah.
Yeah. I wish to. I only wish.
But yeah. Thanks for watching, you guys. I'll keep you guys updated. But until next time, I'll see you later.
Bye bye.
Okay.